Think about the last time you called your dog and he didn't come. You said his name. Nothing. So you said it again, a bit louder. Then the full name, the one that only comes out when you mean it. And by the third time, your voice had gone somewhere you're not proud of. That flat, hard sound with a bit of an edge on it. And he still didn't come. And then he came, in his own time. And you were left standing there feeling like an idiot in your own garden. We've all done it. I've done it with my own dog and heard myself doing it. And here's what stings. He wasn't being rude. And the volume was never going to work because you weren't having the problem you thought you were having. There's one thing your dog does that tells you exactly where you actually stand with him, and almost every owner reads it as a personality quirk instead. It's not. That's the last thing I'm going to talk about, and it's the one I'd most like you to hear. Hi everyone, I'm Leo Bennett, your neighborhood dog guy. Now let's start with the sentence I hear more than any other. He knows it, he's just ignoring me. He knows sit. He knows come. He does it perfectly in the kitchen for a bit of cheese. Then a squirrel appears and it's like he's never heard the word in his life. And the conclusion most of us land on is that he's being defiant, or that he doesn't respect us. I want to be clear that it's a completely understandable read, but it isn't what's happening, and believing it will send you in the wrong direction for months, getting louder the whole way. What's actually going on is far less personal and much more fixable. So today, why your dog blows you off, the habits that quietly cause it, and the correct way to fix every one. And you'll never need to raise your voice for any of it. Let's start with the biggest reframe in this video. Knowing a behavior and being trained in a behavior are two completely different things. Your dog knows sit in the sense that he has, in a quiet kitchen with a piece of cheese in view, worked out that folding his back legs makes cheese appear. That's it. That's the entire extent of it. What he has not done is generalize that word to a windy street with a jogger going past and a smell in the grass he's very interested in, because dogs generalize astonishingly badly. It isn't a flaw in your dog, it's how the species works. So when he ignores you outdoors, the honest translation isn't, "I heard you and I refuse." It's much closer to, "That word doesn't exist out here yet." The correct way. Stop testing and start teaching. Take every cue you think he knows and deliberately rebuild it somewhere new. The hallway, the garden, the front step, the quiet end of the street, the busy end. Pay him properly in each place like it's brand new, because to him it is. Every location is a fresh conversation, and every one goes quicker than the last, until one day it goes everywhere at once, and it feels like he suddenly grew up. And if he fails twice in a row anywhere, that's not defiance. That's you having jumped a step. Go back one, make it easy, win twice, then move up. Nobody ever regretted going too slowly. Now here's the habit that's doing you the most damage, and I'd put money on you doing it today. You say sit. He doesn't. So you say sit again. Then sit, 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 slightly louder, and eventually he sits or he doesn't, and everyone moves on. Here's what you've actually taught. The word sit is not information. It's background noise that sometimes precedes something happening. Some dogs learn to wait until the third repetition, because in their entire experience, the first two have never meant anything at all. He isn't being slow, he's being accurate. And a lot of us do it as a nervous tick. The dog's up, we don't know what to do, so we start issuing words we've no intention of following through on. The correct way. Say it once. Only once. Then wait. Give him a full 3 or 4 seconds, because dogs are slower to process a word than we expect, and most people repeat themselves long before the dog has finished thinking. And here's the rule that makes the whole thing work. Don't ask for something unless you're willing and able to see it through right now. If you can't follow through, you're on the phone, you're carrying shopping, he's 20 feet away and completely thrilled about something in a hedge, then don't ask. Silence costs you nothing. A cue you don't back up costs you the word itself, and you only get so many words. Which brings me to the leash, and this is the most useful mechanical thing in the whole video. Most people walk around with the leash held at what I'd call half tension. Not a hard pull, just a permanent light strain, all the time, everywhere. And that's a disaster for teaching, because your dog now has no way of telling right from wrong. If the leash is always slightly on, then it being on tells him nothing. Dogs learn brilliantly from pressure going away. It's the same principle you'd see in horsemanship. Contact means think about it, and the release means yes, that. But the release is the information, and if you never release, you never say anything. The correct way. Loose leash as the default. Dead loose. Hand down, arm relaxed, line hanging in a soft J, and let that be the normal state so that any change means something. Then, when you do use the leash, use it to say where you're going and let it go slack the instant he's with you. That instant matters more than anything you do with your voice. The release is the whole sentence. And one specific mistake to kill immediately. Don't apply pressure while you're turning. Turn first, give him a second to notice and come with you, and only then, if he genuinely didn't respond, let the leash do its job. Asking and correcting in the same motion isn't teaching. He hasn't been given a chance to be right, and dogs know the difference. Now the small stuff, which is where this is really won or lost. You ask him to sit while you're chatting to a neighbor. He sits. 20 seconds later, he stands up. And you let it go, because who cares? It's a sit in a driveway. Here's why it matters. Every time a cue gets given and quietly abandoned, you're not failing at that sit. You're teaching a much bigger lesson. My instructions are provisional. They expire if you wait. Do that 50 times over a spring, and you've built a dog who treats everything you say as an opening offer, something to be waited out rather than done. Then comes the day it actually counts. The front door's open, there's a road, and you need one word to land instantly and completely. And that's when you find out what your words have been worth all along. Nobody wants to find out then. The correct way. Zoom out. Judge every interaction on the big picture, not the small one. If you asked for the sit, then the sit holds until you say otherwise. And if he breaks it, you calmly put him back. No drama, no repeating the word, no annoyance. Just the follow-through, every time. It sounds fussy over a sit in a driveway. It is the entire foundation of a dog who listens when it matters, and there's no shortcut past it. Then there's the thing almost nobody builds deliberately, which is the off switch. Because the other half of holding a dog to something is telling him when he's done. If you never do that, one of two things happens. Either he's never truly working, or he never truly rests, and both make him worse at listening. Dogs cope far better with clear on and clear off than with a permanent, vague middle. The correct way. Get a release word and mean it. Break, free, all done, whatever you like, and use it to end every piece of work, every time. And make the break a real one. He's genuinely off duty. He can sniff, wander, roll about, ignore you completely. That contrast is what makes the working part feel like something, rather than just the permanent state of being alive near you. Then, work in short, deliberate chunks with real breaks between them, and build difficulty on one dimension at a time. There are 3 of them. How long you're asking for, how far away from him you are, and how much is going on around you. Duration, distance, distraction. Raise one, drop the other 2. If you want him holding a position for 2 minutes, do it in a quiet room where you're standing right next to him. If you want him holding it with a bike going past, make it 3 seconds and stand close enough to help. Trying to raise all 3 at once is the most common reason perfectly good training falls apart in week 2. Here's one that isn't a technique at all, and it's often the actual answer. Ask yourself what your dog does all day. Because a dog with nothing to do doesn't sit around being fine. He finds himself a job, and he's not going to consult you about what it is. Pacing, barking at the window, redesigning the skirting boards, patrolling the house, bringing you a shoe every 12 minutes. And the more your dog was bred to work, shepherds, Malinois, collies, most of the terriers, the faster and more creatively he'll self-employ, and the harder he is to reach when you finally do want his attention. A dog who's already invented a full-time occupation isn't going to be very interested in yours. The correct way. Give him something with a beginning and an end, every day, that uses his head rather than just his legs. 10 minutes of scent work with treats hidden around the garden, a chew he has to actually work at, a puzzle feeder instead of a bowl, training that asks him to think rather than just comply. And be honest with yourself that another lap of the same walk usually isn't it. Physical exercise makes a fitter dog, not a calmer one, and a lot of us have accidentally built a superb athlete who still has absolutely nothing to do with his brain. Which brings me to the last one, and it's the reason I made you wait. Your dog won't eat outside. He'll hoover up anything at home, but on a walk, or at the park, or in a training class, he turns his head away from food he loves. So it goes down as a personality trait, and it gets repeated to every trainer and every dog person he ever meets. He's just not food motivated. Here's what's really happening, and it's one of the most useful things you can know about dogs. An animal that stops eating has stopped feeling safe. Appetite is one of the first things stress switches off, because a body preparing to deal with a threat has no interest in digesting. So a dog refusing chicken isn't fussy. He's telling you, in the plainest language available to him, that he is over his limit right now. And here's the part that matters. A dog in that state cannot learn. You can drill him for an hour, and almost nothing will stick, because the part of the brain that forms new associations isn't the part that's running the show. Real-world example. A couple came to me with a big adolescent shepherd and said he wasn't food motivated and that the training tools they'd bought hadn't worked. What had actually happened was this. They'd introduced a new collar on a day the dog was already exhausted, and it hadn't gone well. After that, every time that collar came out, he'd go and lie down in the other room. And with it on, he wouldn't take a single treat from anybody. They read that as stubbornness. It was the same signal twice. He'd learned what the collar predicted, and he was too worried to eat. Nothing was wrong with the dog, and there was nothing wrong with these people either. They loved him, and they were trying hard. They'd simply been handed a reading of the behavior that was exactly backwards, and then spent months acting on it. The correct way. Treat food refusal as a stop sign, not a personality. When he won't eat, you're too close, too loud, or too long. Increase the distance, cut the session short, and come back later at a level where he can take food. And use that as your gauge from then on. If he's eating, he's learning. If he's stopped, nothing you do in the next 10 minutes is going to land, so stop doing it. Any piece of equipment or any exercise that reliably makes your dog stop eating is telling you something about itself, and it's worth listening to. So take this one thing out of all of it. Your dog isn't disrespecting you. He hasn't decided you're beneath him, and he isn't running a campaign. He's an animal who learned some words in one room, has never been shown they apply anywhere else, and has been living with a person whose instructions sometimes mean something and sometimes don't, through absolutely no fault of yours, because nobody hands you a manual with the dog. Make your words mean one thing. Say them once. Let him know when he's off duty. Give him something to do. Watch whether he can eat. That's the whole job, and it's completely learnable. And honestly, if you've sat through this long thinking about how to be clearer for your dog rather than deciding he's just difficult, he's already in better hands than most. So tell me in the comments which word your dog has stopped believing. Sit in the kitchen only. Come, unless there's a squirrel. Down, but only if he can see food in your hand. Breed and age too, if you would. I read all of them, and they decide what I make next. Now, go and offer him something outside and see what he says.